there, they hovered it and they considered it and they went for the Braum instead, and it actually gives better pick. So champions or team comps that have low amounts of crowd control get extra when Braum's added to the mix, and so champions like Kha'Zix who can auto attack and weave those auto attacks will be better off for it.
In addition, they're going to have to try to break through a Cassiopeia, Caitlyn, and a Jace, with an Ivern shielding them and a Tahm Kench consuming them as well. Vici seems like they might have a pretty good disengage as well.
So funnily enough, going for the Caitlyn as an early rotation almost signals an indicator towards the Ivern. There are very, I guess, set parameters with which you'll see one. Now, having a Cassiopeia is also really, really good with Ivern because you can sit in Fog of War next to their turrets.
Yeah.
And they can't tell if you're going to ult, so they have to ward the bush, then they're wasting wards, and then everything just falls down. And so what Vici have got is a really good disengage, but more so a counter-engage team composition. So Jace has got the Gate Shock Blast, Caitlyn's got the traps and the, you know, the area of effect that Ivern will put down with the brushes to give more headshots. Will no doubt go the Hurricane build. And so if they can stand in one spot, like pick their spot and say, come at me, like, they'll be really good in the QG.
And that's the big question for QG is can they move around that with this pick comp and find those openings? Again, this is the week of the Reapers. Can Xiaogu show that they are deserving of a winning record? This is a very difficult group, and we're even seeing the currently bottom team Game Talents make strides forward. It's time for us to see if Xiaogu can actually compete and live up to the standards of the name of Reapers.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's a lot on the line for QG, not so much in game number 1, so to speak, but moving into this week. We called it Week of the Reapers. It's a very big deal. If they can show up, they can prove they're a top team, and they can potentially take out what is the hardest group by far in the LPL.
Yeah.
And it all starts with this particular game, and they've drafted Comfort. They've picked comps for themselves, like Kha'Zix Rise is typical doing be cleared, you would say, in the way they'll move around the map together. I think that highlighted 2v2 is where we do have to look.
And from the Rise that we saw in the previous game from Republic, those Realm Warps were amazing. And we're starting to see some really innovative Realm Warps pretty much all across the competitive scene, with people taking a 5-man Realm Warp from top lane into the Baron Pit and then rushing that down.
No, definitely. TSM showcased that the Rise ultimates can be used in very unique ways. We saw the goods and bads in the last series, how it can win and lose you games, and that's the important thing. You can press R, but you have to acknowledge firstly how many people are going, why we're going, where we're going, and what it actually means.
That's really difficult for the whole team to be on the same page from the get-go.
And that's the important thing. So TSM, we already highlighted, had really good Rise ultimates, and that's because they can all communicate. We're in mixed language teams, first and foremost, so being able to use that is a challenge. But by having the jungler and the mid laner both be Korean, it does make sense that they'll work in unison or work in tandem and actually have really good synergy, communication, and get those ults off.
Yeah, we're hoping that that communication is going to be pretty good. We did have a player disconnect. We're having him get right back into game. And look at that. We've loaded onto the Rift. It's almost as if somebody just had to turn the internet off and back on again, just like regular solo queue.
Fortunately, it's a bit hard in solo queue to do that. You'll get flamed. Here, the game waits for you as we are under the Rift.
Xiaogu are actually invading as 3. This is Vici versus Xiaogu. Doinby leading the way along with Alone and Ollie. And that very, very pink Xuantron P sees the ward go down and unfortunately does not hit anyone with his Piltover Peacemaker.
Of course, running what I would define as the LPL Caitlyn skin. They love the bubblegum Caitlyn. Uzi always playing with it. Deft, I believe, as well. One of them does green.
They're still going forward and have now found EasyHoon. That's the snare. Cleanse is used. Auto attack lands. Oh, Doinby doesn't want to try playing with the vision. Could have flash autoed, but EasyHoon would have gotten his own flash.
And EasyHoon starting with the Twin Fangs means that he can't even get move speed and run to safety, so he does have to respect that and walks away. However, we also just acknowledge that Doinby started with his W, so level 1s, they are not actually a problem for EasyHoon at all. In fact, he ends up winning that just by being able to cleanse and walk away.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't get ganked.
Well, knowing these junglers, we're probably... Oh, wait. These junglers like to play around mid lane. Ah, interesting. Bengi going for the classic leashless on Ivern as is standard. And Clid going to be starting out on that top side. So Ivern, according to Vedius's video that came out this morning about why Ivern is great, is because he has the fastest clear speed when uninterrupted, albeit low health.
Yeah, and like I agree with that, but he also has the riskiest wave clear, or clear speed rather.
Oh, speaking of ganks, Clid goes right in, takes a turret hit, and is going to be pushed right back out. But that is flash now burned from EasyHoon.
Yeah, but Ghost also used again from Doinb. He has flash, so it may be level 3. Doinb's got his own kill threat. Both potions definitely about to be used, and Bengi, immediately spotting Clid moving, can now go and do a cheeky invade and smite before going back to his own camps. They're all conveniently prepared for him. So at about 2 minutes 45, he could look at top lane if he wants. Maybe start getting some ganks off, or he can go back to the other side of the map where his red buff is and do the second side. And this is actually a more prolonged and slower clear from the Ivern, just because he got greedy and, like, it's not bad greed, but went for the Raptors. So he won't have a smite for the red buff.
Going to be a little bit slower as Hatong forced to save Xuan P as alone and Ollie. Trade out a little bit of damage. Not a lot of minions have been missed as both of the bot lanes, I suppose, are all level 2. And with junglers now on that bottom side, you can see Doinb actually invading, has found Bengi. The fan vote is with Vici Gaming. Word over the wall is going to see this happening, but smite from Bengi secures that red buff with no contest, and Doinb returns to lane.
Yeah, and so I'd expect Bengi right now, if he doesn't want to recall, will go the long, safe way to a Scuttle Crab or the Raptors to secure those then. And so now we have to look towards where the Ivern will actually gank next. And right now the bottom lane is pushing. The Caitlyn has control of the lane. There's actually nowhere to go unless he wants to gank mid. And that's definitely where Clid has been putting all of the focus, and you'd expect Doinb has it warded. Except that it was over the red buff pit, and this is where Bengi's decision making comes into play. He knows it's not warded, because he saw the ward go down.
Ooh, steps aside from the root collar. Meanwhile, Clid in the top lane is going to find Long, who immediately takes a lot of damage and flashes early. Kabe trying to finish it up. Looks for the... No, doesn't have enough.
He should have tried to flash and get the sword to go through him or something. He didn't actually find the kill, so Lung's able to live and teleport back. And that's actually just a forced recall, which is not a bad thing for Kabe, but because he's looking to try and push it in, it won't actually work that way, and he'll go back himself. And so that gank actually just amounts to nothing.
Yeah.
Like, we're at 0.
Back to ground 0, the very first stepping stone of this. Double long sword and Doran's versus simply Doran's shield. Kabe does not recall on his own, as Doinb with very low mana is going to try to balance this wave back out before getting his own tier.
Meanwhile, one thing you will find with Doinb, for the record, and for those watching at home, is that he'll never have mana. It's just a thing.
He likes using his buttons.
Exactly. He's the kind of player that Victor ults to clear a minion wave and will have no mana. The idea and the ideology, I guess, basically is that he'll keep you in lane if you're laning against him. So EasyHoon, if he's got abilities to roam, will be very lucky compared to the norm.
Doinb, however, is going to stay as EasyHoon decides not to complete the recall. And currently down 9 CS, as Bengi is going to help by getting some wards on that top side of the mid lane, along with securing the Scuttle Crab. So you can see Vici are protecting their mid and top side of the map. Bottom seems to be doing rather well. Xuan P is pushing back against Alone and Ollie.
And this is still a really big win for Vici, simply by laning phase. The CS advantages they're garnering in their solo lanes at the moment is starting to actually become a larger deal than it should be. Like Kabe, yeah, it's not unexpected that he'll fall behind in CS this early in the game, but after having the pressure from Clid even being there, forcing recalls, he's still that far behind. Rise not being able to recall, not being able to have a mana pool means that EasyHoon starts to push him out of lane. Doran's ring already showing that it's a big deal, and that's a big miss for Doinb. If you go Mana Crystal, you need to get that recall off early. You cannot afford to get stuck in lane how he did.
Yeah, he's still there. Recall from EasyHoon as he's level 6 is completed. The tier is finished, and that means finally Doinb might get an opportunity to get back in. Kabe will complete his own recall for a Bomby Cinder to catch the minion wave prepped by Long, as Bengi is just continuing to move back and forth around this jungle, just maintaining jungle presence as he gets level 6 well before Clid.
He's having a grand time, Bengi. Having Daisy available means that... And he stopped the recall as well.
Oh, wow,
like,
yeah.
Doinb is actually just done. Like, this mid lane's going to have to get covered by Clid. If he doesn't go mid and cover the wave, needless pressure now being mounted everywhere on the map, including his red buff that'll just be gone.
Did Bengi just use Daisy?
Yeah, to check. It's a vision ward, basically, that moves. That's all Daisy is good for at level 6, really, anyway.
Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Clid looking for a gank.
Oh, wow.
There goes the submarine, bringing Shen in exhaust, but Ali goes low. First blood to Alone, and they follow it up with a second. Clid gets that other one.
And that's the difference here. So I guess acknowledging that Bengi was going to be near the red buff, Clid goes to the opposite side of the map and gets a gank off, utilizing the Shen. Now you will see them push the top lane here, Long and Bengi, with maybe a helping hand from Daisy. And instead of racing for the turret or trying to push it down, even with a cannon wave, they opt to not do it at all. And this is where it gets a little bit testing, because this top lane's in trouble.
Doinby's on his way up there as well. Despite getting a recall, he still has no mana, but he does have that Realm Orb. Bengi lands the Root Collar. Trigger Seed is going to block some of this damage as Doinby tries to get in and kite it out, but is not able to do too much with only the Ionian Boots of Lucidity and that tier.
I will say, for what it's worth, going for the Boots of Lucidity means that he's able to walk back to lane quicker and a little bit more efficient if he's forced to recall time and again. And if he's going to expend mana in the way that he is, it's probably the best itemization choice that he could have went for.
I thought he was just trying to make Easy Hoon envious. My champion can buy boots.
I can buy boots and you cannot.
But yours cannot.
I mean, here I am giving reasons, but yours is just as valid.
Yeah. Clid is going to be gifting over that blue buff now to Doinby, at least hopefully. Doinby is trying to catch this minion wave.
Stuck with a wave
He wants his cake and he wants to eat it. Oh no, misses that minion too. Doinby's just getting torn apart right now. Ooh, that was a little close there.
And he missed experience on 2 of those, so once again, Easy Hoon. Having summoner spells blown at level 1 doesn't mean anything for the Korean mid laner here. It is a Korean off.
Yep.
The jungle mid duos are actually poor Koreans. Funnily enough, stars of the team. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, in the outside solo lanes.
But the big point we haven't hit, Dom, is the bottom lane. And yes, those 2 kills went down there. Alone still picked up one of those. That puts Clid back well and truly into an advantageous position in the jungle by getting a kill. But it also means that Alone is massively ahead compared to the Caitlyn.
Serrated Dirk and Swifty looking for the big crits. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, no, just got the minion there. Meanwhile, Long continuing to farm in that top lane. He's got some help from Bengi, as Kabe is actually going to recall. That's going to be the first turret of the game, yeah. Doinby looks like he might try to answer on the opposite side of the map. He's got Realm Warp.
So Shen looks like he has his ultimate. If it's not, it's very close to being available again. And so they could have perhaps looked for a dive on the bottom side of the map. Remember that they're against the Tahm Kench. So the Caitlyn's not an easy target to kill. And they have to be confident they can take out both of them if they're looking for one. And with summoner spells in mind, I'd say diving that's a little bit too risky. So they opt against it. But that just means it's an uncontested first turret blood that goes to solo gold for Lung, who is just monumentally, like, so far ahead.
Yeah, 25 CS ahead of Kabe right now.
650 extra gold for the turret on top of that. So
Clid now heading down towards that bottom side. It looks like Vici are continuing to play around that, though. Bengi hops over the wall to finish off the Krugs that were started by Long. Bit of ooh, Clid sneaks around, gets to the actual submarine, has found Long on top of a ward. Flash is used, Kabe follows up, and they're going to try to give the kill over to Clid and succeed.
Bengi trying to offer a shield, but it was a last resort and basically afterthought. Vision control from QG, perhaps it's a good thing, but also the movements from Vici, a little bit too predictable, trying to pick somebody off. And a Kha'Zix that was already quite large, 101 with his items almost completed, and a Shen with the ultimate available. They still fall for that trap.
Ooh, you talked about the danger of getting a 4th bullet. Clid immediately makes it down to the bottom. Hatong does not stand a chance. Clid takes it, exhaust is used. The curtain has been called. Heal. Bullet number 4 misses, but Clid flashes. Doinby follows up with a Realm Warp to zone Bengi away as Daisy is just going to do some work over here. This is unnerfed Daisy. This is going to be all over the place.
Daisy's being a pest and Bengi does get away, nothing actually used. I believe the reason they flashed is they expected the 4th bullet firstly to hit.
Yeah. Because
he flashed and smoked the target, so he would have autoed and queued and it might have been a kill. That and Doinby was also looking for a dive, so the idea was there. The execution unfortunately wasn't. But I can see some kind of merit in what that was.
So returning to the big theme, this is the test for Qiao Gu. How are the early marks looking?
I mean, their movements around the map is something that made QG look fantastic in the first series when we saw them play.
Talents.
Their movements are no exception to that rule this time around. They are still going well as a team, and they always look like a unit, and that's the cool thing about QG. So that's still consistent against a better team or a smarter team, particularly when you're mapping out where Bengi's moving and all of his counter jungling and advances into Clid's side of the map. He still looks good, like really good.
Continuing to watch this progress, 3-0-1 on Clid as he gets his red buff, alone with the other kill on his team. You were not kidding. Doinby has no mana. He's got a tier, a refillable, a catalyst, and he's still
Oh no, yeah, absolutely serious. Like that guy lives wishing he had mana. Like, I would not be surprised if he runs mana regen.
Does he ever
runes.
play like energy champion?
He does play Zed, yes.
Okay, all right. I feel like that could be an opportunity.
He's a really good Zed, actually.
Bengi looks like he might be setting up here. Brushmaker to deny. Bengi's just outside of vision, so Doinby with very low mana, as mentioned, having a bit of a difficult time, but is able to get in there and clear out the minion wave. But EasyHoon probably not going to let him recall here.
They want to try and stop the recall, and they will.
Oof.
Now,
Hitbox.
Doinby, if he actually got to base there, potentially could have even used his ghost to get back quicker.
Yeah.
But now he's stuck. And by stuck, you'd expect a little bit of assistance from his team, given where all that pressure was going, but coincides with blue buffs nicely. So he might just opt into not recalling if he can.
Yeah, he's still very high health. As he's heading over towards it now, Clid actually completed his own recall, and Bengi, post level 5, going to be gifting those buffs over as Xuan P harasses Ali down to half. And taking a look at that bottom lane, still very even. Doinby is
This fool.
just preemptively. That's probably...
Oh, no! That's actually the worst case scenario. Clid's now going mid to help wave clear. Like,
I love how even the cameraman was like, wait, what? What?
that feels so bad, man.
Tragic. He's getting his own recall now. And EasyHoon did get a recall. He's still leaving that blue buff out.
Just hanging out at red buff. Bengi. So Ivan's one of the most unique junglers that you'll see just randomly stand still all the time. He has nothing better to do. He doesn't need to hit the camp.
He's just enjoying the breeze on that side of the river. That far away from the Baron pit, I hear the weather's really nice.
Red, Raptors, and then bottom lane can get red on the way back to lane. I hate Ivan sometimes. Like when you're playing 2v2 and you've just acknowledged that Caitlyn has a red buff, and you feel like you've been cheesed, and then you realize it's just an Ivan.
Yeah. And there he goes using the Brushmaker to check for a ward. You'll notice that using Brushmaker inside of Brush gives vision. So that's something Bengi might do a little bit more later on, as he will smite secure the Scuttle Crab. Xiaogu leave alone, isolated, and he's going to open the curtain call. Doinby drops the Realm Warp and gets the Stand United, bringing Kabe in. They're going to try to target Hatong as Daisy tries to disrupt it. Kabe takes one hit, takes two, but is not going to be knocked up long range, but flashes to get out of it as they've killed Hatong. Teleport was used by Long to get into the fight as Daisy is cleaned up. Ali eats a root collar and is cleaned up by Xuan P as Clid is forced to leap away.
Yeah, it looks like nothing else will come from that besides the pressure they're about to place down on this turret, and if QG can defend this, they're doing very well.
Kabe still has his teleport, so he's going to try to get a recall in. Xuan P eats some damage. Doinby says, I wish I had blue buff, and dies to Xuan P, and the rest of Vici chasing forward. With that, the tier 1 turret falls, and Vici are now up 2 turrets to 0.
Yeah, an attempt to defend that, it was super risky, honestly, from QG. Not having a tank available for them, Shen not there. Teleport was up if he was able to get there in time, but not to be. And Vici starting to get advantages, starting to make advances towards the QG roster.
The Mountain Drake is cleaned up as a result of this. Bengi, need to get back into the brush to clean that up as he secures it. But as you said, Vici starting to take some small wins over Xiaogu. They're still down in kills, but they're up nearly 1,300 gold.
And you can see the recipe, right, of what QG are trying to do. They're already rotating down, and Xuan has no net. So by Jhin ulting here, it forces the Nom. But look how far away Alone is, firstly. So the follow-up damage is a little bit concerning. Ali uses the wall far too early, and that is actually a big deal as the teleports come out, because if he had that, the follow-up damage could be significantly less, and they may have lived. He was using it for no particular reason, just because they were trying to get a successful dive off. So as the end result of all of that, they do walk away. And the idea, again, is good from QG. They're there first. EasyHoon's definitely late to the mark, and Doinby's getting around quicker. But because it wasn't successful, Vici can counter it. And that's what their composition does, as we already alluded towards.
The last remaining Tier 1 turret for Xiaogu is in that mid lane, and now it's Alone, who does not have to worry about mana problems. Able to sit there and catch it. He's got Ali there as well, as Doinby heads down towards that bottom lane. Quick recall from Alone, though, means that right now it's only Ali defending it. And Clid, despite being 3-0 and 2, is not able to help Xiaogu snowball what they can.
Would like the level 11 mark as well, Clid, perhaps to get a point in the evolve form of the W, I would say over wings. Depends what type of player you are. Generally speaking, SOFM's a unique butterfly that'll always evolve his ultimate, and I still don't really get it. But it's a personal preference.
Yeah.
So again, when he hits level 11, I think we'll see him get W, help the team composition, work around that pick, what they're trying to actually achieve in the mid game once they've got their big items, and enough of a mana pool on Doinby that he might last more than 2 minutes in a lane. Currently out of mana again, bottom.
Already. He was at full mana like 30 seconds ago. Vici, however, group up, collapsing on the river to clear out the vision of Xiaogu, and as 5 cleanly and easily knock down the third domino of that Tier 1 turret.
The gold lead actually isn't that big at all. The farm values are still there. Shen has caught up. Bottom lane's still ahead in farm. The difference is in the turrets and the middle lane CS. And so if the turrets can start going down, like if they can actually break the structures as a response from 1-1 team fight, this game's back to perhaps an advantageous position for Qiao. Right now, Vici are in the driver's seat. The question from here is what can they take now all the outers are gone? Because that was the easy part of the game achieved.
Well, it certainly is going to be difficult to look for those Tier 2 turrets. And as you said, if Xiaogu can take a team fight, they could break things open. I think it might be a little bit difficult because Ivern, he's finished his redemption. He's already, I can't actually tell if he's maxing out the trigger seed or not, but you have to assume because he is Ivern.
He always maxed that E, I believe.
And he's now working towards the locket of the Iron Solari. With the Tom Kench and the Ivern, it's going to be really hard to kill people.
Seraph's Embrace as well completed. EasyHoon has completely stacked his
already
tier.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, 19 minutes. Very efficient timing. In fact, quicker than average, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And he's about to have an Abyssal Scepter. So the mid laner of Vici is already hard to kill, let alone the things that you mentioned that can save him. Jace outranges most people as well if they start sieging. Like, things are getting pretty bad for QG if a fight breaks out.
Yeah, once again, though, they move just a little bit faster as a unit.
Baron.
With one Mountain Drake.
They're has blue buff.
Doing it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Cass has blue buff. That's good awareness from QG to ward it. That's not something you'd expect at 20 minutes on the dot, but they were aware.
Yeah, and grouped as 4 with a Shen on their team, Xiaogu could have collapsed. As it is, they are going to get the response. Zoning Realm Warp sends the minions that they need for the turret away. Daisy gets in there, but the mid-tier 1 finally goes down. Tron P, however, is looking to answer with a tier 2.
And he will likely get this. Tom Kent hanging around. They should ult out to safety right now. No? They could get caught.
They're just going to walk it out.
No!
They're very confident about the fact that they can walk away from Jhin and Braum.
That guy was ghostblading towards them bottom too. Like they were playing a dangerous game by just walking instead of ulting to be safe. Doesn't matter too much, I suppose, in the end. A turret goes down, and this is the ebb and flow we were seeing between the teams. And they are, again, slow, trying to play smart League of Legends as they work around Summoner's Rift to get advantages. But there are also sudden confidence plays that you'll see from both of these teams. The flair of the star players is always present.
The classic LPL. We can macro, but we don't like to. Ward now from Clid. Not going to let that happen again. Tragically, though, it just takes a Symbol Brush Seeker to attempt to deny that vision. And taking a look at the map, We've got some recalls going out. Ocean Drake is up in 20 seconds as some items are completed. There's the Locket of the Iron Solari finished. Long now finishes his Youmuu's and his Black Cleaver, so full lethality, 7.1 Jace. Rip my nightmares.
Yeah, he's going to be a very big Jace. A lot of farm at 22 minutes, let's be honest. Both mid laners, even AD carries. This game is starting to mount up into something rather large, and you'd expect perhaps a Drake contest if it were a meaningful Drake. But it looks to me like the Baron's the highest order of priority.
Okay, so it's 22-22. Doinby has full mana. How long does this last?
Oh, no, he should keep the full mana for a little while. Now he's got a stacked up Rod of Ages, and the tier will be pretty much at like 700, I'd imagine, out of the 750. Like, if that guy runs out of mana now, he's doing well. Like, impressive.
That's ideal at this point. As it is, though, vision from Vici Gaming around that Cloud Drake. Doinby actually ghosted in, yeah. Eats a headshot for his efforts and turns right back around. He's got Catalyst. He's just going to cast some spells and get health back.
Yeah, they need to get control of the Baron area. Some vision would be handy. The Scuttle Crab means they can clear these wards now and run to safety, but Vici has the inside track of the middle lane. So the question is, do they fight or do they zone and push the second inner turret, force QG around the map? Because if they do siege mid, what they don't know is that Doinby's top.
Yeah.
And so the siege would work.
They're just going to play it safe. Doinby is waiting because he knows there could be a chance. Large minion wave there. Long now shows himself, and Vici are going to look for that Ocean Drake and answer. Qiao fall back and give it up.
Yeah, and Lung's also able to defend top because it was just Doinby. The control around the Baron area is still QG's. I believe there is a cheeky ward placed over the pit, however. They want Bengi?
Realm Warp from Doinby is going to catch Bengi, but he is relatively difficult to kill. Daisy is going to fall at a really bad time, but Hatong looks to save him, but gets taunted right back in. Schwantrompi is putting out some good damage as Easyhoon gets in alone over the wall. Flash tries to clean it up. Is still not going to be able to get the kill. Easyhoon is doing some damage though, and he cleans up one, cleans up two. Long. Oh, gets denied by Ali. Tries to get the auto. Can't even get the kill. Ali just straight up outplays. Flashes. Tries to sidestep, but gets bopped.
Oh,
Clid level 12 without the bonus leap is locked down. He gets one revenge kill onto Bengi. 1 for 4 favoring Vici.
Yeah, but Bengi dead means they can't actually look towards major objectives, so I think they'll just push out that middle lane. Baron is risky, even though it is just Jhin standing, but they have gone straight onto it.
Yeah, Easyhoon is going to try to burn through it. They've got one Mountain Drake.
They'll get it, actually, yeah.
Alone is there. Maximum range. Oh, it was lined up.
They weren't even protecting around it. So they do get the Baron. Vici, massive team fight. And we have to highlight that QG are the ones kicking this off by locking down Bengi. He's hard to kill. And so a flash from Hatong will save him, and Kabe wastes the taunt by flashing onto him. And for some reason, instead of getting a carry, prioritizes the two tanks that have no utility left. They've just used it on each other. Is where Easyhoon can come in. Lung's able to do an abundance of damage, and they start locking down the rest of the team. This is good from QG to survive as long as they did against Lung. And yes, they get a return kill on the back end from Clid, but small mistakes and individual mistakes starts to amount to a bigger deal. Kabe's taunt, honestly, the defining feature to me.
Kabe going to need to land those onto the priority targets if he can hope to set up his team for more success. But as it is, 26-minute mark, Baron buff now on Vici Gaming. Everybody but Bengi. They're grouped up as 4 in the mid lane. Long doesn't have his teleport, but he's prepping a wave in the bottom to keep Kabe occupied. That mid-tier 2, not going to be long for this world if Vici have anything to say about it.
Jace is very good when he groups with the team, but he's also capable right now of just keeping Kabe in that side lane and having the advantage that he does with firstly Baron buff and Ghostblade Black Cleaver, meaning that he can take down turrets. He can just try and actually brute force and bully out the 1v1. We'll see what direction he chooses.
Looks like he's trying to actually fight out against Kabe, but Doinby shows up as well. Little bit of regret for Long, but that is, again, full lethality Jace as he tries to trade it out. Doinby cleans it up, but the mid-tier 2 goes down as Vici sets up the brush line and breaks it down.
And this is a Baron buff Vici that have Caitlyn Ivern. And the Caitlyn's got 2.5 items. And not only that, Cassiopeia to protect the Caitlyn. So, again, we spoke towards their team composition. What can it do? Well, Siege.
Yeah.
And they've just got a Baron buff, which is a really good sieging buff, believe it or not. Vici absolutely in the driver's seat. A 2k gold lead's enough for them to be able to push further, but QG are going for kills.
Yeah, Easyhoon is going to be caught, is saved by Hatong, who takes the Abyssal Voyage, and despite eating a 4th bullet, walks away.
Just to make it clear, Clit just got stunned facing the opposite direction of the Cassiopeia's ultimate. And these things happen. It actually registers the last input from your mouse as to the direction. So he clicked away, then clicked back towards him, and got stunned from the click, not the actual animation of the It's a bit wonky, but that really tilts me for Clit. That's tragic, because he still turned around. In his mind, he was facing the opposite way when he just died.
I feel like that's the same thing that we saw from the Faker Cassiopeia ult. How he can ult facing away from you, but still catch you with the animation is in the opposite direction, but he still catches you.
Similar to that, yeah.
Yeah. Despite that, though, it's now almost a 6,500 gold lead for Vici Gaming, as they are the ones in control of this game. Despite the fact that Xiaogu are moving faster, and as a unit, Vici are just reacting appropriately and handling it.
And there's a cool way to discuss, I guess, the nuances between the two. By moving fast in a losing game, QG are disrupting the flow of Vici, who are notorious for a slow setup efficient style. Clid's got long.
Yeah, tries to go for the solo kill here, but that Jace is pretty strong, and Clid has so much regret right now. Steric's Gage goes off, and Long says, come on, stand still, I dare ya.
Meanwhile, top lane, they're able to take objectives as well. So going for that 1v1, Clid should acknowledge and press tab once in a while and see that it's a Steric's Gage, and know that he's not 1v1ing.
Oh, yeah. Very, very big Jace. With that, all of the tier 2s has been cleared out. You said they got rid of the easy part, knocking down the tier 1s. Now they got rid of the first hard part by taking down the tier 2s. Now they got to work towards those tier 3s and inhibs.
And it all feels like it's an uphill battle for QG at this point with that little base remaining. They still do a lot of damage, it seems, though.
They certainly do. Bengi just tops everyone right back up with the redemption, though. And Vici just walk out.
Still, we're at that item break point where QG are still a threat. And that's the thing. So you can see how much damage, and a lot of sustain, a lot of support comes out of Vici between Bengi and Hatong. But if QG catch you, and they actually have Clid there to supplement that catch, or Carbe to taunt you in, they can actually take you out in one fell swoop.
Ali forced to leap away from the root collar of Bengi as the minion waves are cleared up over and over, but setting up all of this brush, Xiaogu are forced to sit back under the inhib. Ocean Drake has now respawned, and Vici are immediately racing over right on top of a ward. Looks like Clid is going to use the window to get some vision on that top side of the map as the third Drake goes down for Vici.
Yeah, they got themselves an Ocean Drake again. The sustain is real for this team.
Oh, yeah.
A Mountain and 2 Oceans is arguably the best Dragon combination, besides the obvious Infernals, for this team that they could possibly have. Prolonged sieges, prolonged stays, and pushes down of turrets is exactly how they want to play it out.
The classic "you're never going to kill me" build, or I guess team comp and dragon combination. Blue buff on respawn is stolen away by Bengi and gifted over towards Easyhoon, as Long is still not letting his turret go down.
That's the big difference right now. Lung's able to wave clear and prevent them from getting structures, but every time...
Oh, Realm Warp, Doinby and Clid turned it into a trap. That's the Stand United as well. Clid is tanking the turret. Oh, he's still alive.
But look at the face. Why are they committing resources to top lane?
They got 1 kill, but they traded an inhibitor for it. They're going to be able to take down the top tier 1 as well, but the inhibitor itself now falls. Trigger Seed. It keeps him safe. Teleport going to be completed for Kabe. He's looking for Swan
right now.
He's on top of the trap, but he's going to have to Shadow Dash over the wall or go through the try. The rest of his team is no longer following. This is Kabe and Ali very far forward from the rest of Xiaogu. Doinby still doesn't have Realm Warp. Swan B hops over the wall.
They're coercing them towards the bottom lane outer turret, trying to make a pick desperately still.
Please, someone make a mistake.
But they don't have Clid with them, so they aren't exactly all-inning this. It's just keeping them around for as long as possible. If you can maintain vision and keep tabs on your opponent, they can't be doing Baron. That's nice, right?
I feel like that's faulty logic.
But it's accurate.
Situation. It is.
Baron is about to spawn, so the less time they have there, the more time QG can get a recall, and it's equal distance to the Baron.
Not dying is great. but so is not winning. That's not great.
You win some, you lose some.
Okay. It's now 32 minutes in. Still about a 7,000 gold lead, 7.5 now, for Vici Gaming as the Baron respawns, as you've mentioned. They're starting to set up some vision. Bangi secures Scuttle Crab. What does he say to Scuttle Crab to make it sit
Actually,
still?
don't recall the Scuttle Crab sound pack.
I don't think it actually.
He
doesn't
says
it, like,
stuff.
Yeah.
He says stuff to everything.
Looking good, Brambleback. That's the only one I remember off the top of my head.
Actually, the most annoying jungler because of that. Like, I can't play him. And
just when he's walking through the
him.
jungle.
Yeah.
You can turn off character voices.
That ruins the fun of most champions, but he ruins it himself.
Yeah. But I just wonder what does Ivern say to Scuttle Crab to make him sit down and chill?
Probably sit.
Nobody can get Scuttle Crab to chill.
He probably says sit.
He just walks down and sit. Good Scuttle. Okay. I'm going to have to try that in my next ranked games.
Still, the control is Vici's around the Baron, and this is the strength of Ivern. Again, it forces blue trinkets because wards don't cover the area, and they're actually just doing it. Like,
yeah, they still can't see it. At full vision, they can't get through. Baron's down to 2,000.
They're going to commit to the Baron, QG.
Yeah, there goes the Realm Orb onto the far side. Baron is in fact picked up by Bangi, so that is picked up by Vici. Kabe forced to get out of there as Clid did go down. And Vici just using that Ivern.
But that was the big play for QG. That was the moment where they might have got themselves back into this game well and truly. The Kha'Zix getting ulted by Shen, jumping in at a 2k health Baron with a Jhin crit that was 100% going to go through it. And Bangi still gets it. So kudos to Bangi. And Vici might just have enough ability to close out the rest of this game. If QG can actually defend this, it'll be quite impressive.
Yeah, they're certainly going to try. Clid is still dead for another 16, 15 seconds as the second inhibitor now falls with Baron buff. 5 members of Vici are now escorting these Baron-empowered super minions in. They could be looking to end the game right
it looks
here.
like they are.
Daisy's now onto the Nexus turret. Redemption to top themselves off along with Brush. Ali in the front is going to be shredded through and dropped.
Whoa, Easy
Hoon. Doinby on the far side while Alone makes it under the Nexus. Doinby goes down. In addition to Alone, Clid leaps back onto the fountains as the final morsel of Qiao Gu is consumed by Hatong and cleaned up. The Nexus falls and Vici take game number 1 over Qiao Gu.
And Vici makes sure they all die before they can actually get the victory. And that was a pretty clear and clean game from the side. QG showed some defiances and some good moments. But those moments don't actually amount to a victory, and they have to go hit the drawing board after that one.
Yeah, they certainly do. Now joining us after that game is Mr. Raz. So Raz, what did you see that game?
I mean, that was just, for me, looking at Vici, that was clean from them in the sense that that is a tried and true Ivern comp.
Yeah.
The Cassiopeia, the Caitlyn, it is super hard to be able to actually engage onto that, and they tried. They definitely made the attempt, but it just kept finding themselves losing a lot of trades, and it caught up to them.
It certainly did. Taking a look at the stats right here, it was close in kills, but it was not close in gold. 13,000 when it was all said and done, and complete objective control from Vici as they slowly snowballed the victory.
And you can just see the gold lead creeping up larger and larger, and Easyhoon was so large in the mid lane that the ganks going towards him didn't actually really impact him all too much, and so he was able to just bully through that lane. He made Ivern's job easier, he made Caitlyn's job easier. Suddenly they're doing, Caitlyn's doing much more damage. Ivern is honestly able to just kind of move in a lot more easier, and it's just because the Cassiopeia is just doing so much work.
Yeah, Easyhoon really just kind of popped off over the course of the game. And the fact that he was able to get the stun onto Clid, I feel like that's a big question that we set up at the beginning, was the duo, Doinby and Clid. They like to move around, they like to move as a unit. This game, we didn't really see that.
So to me, the biggest part of this whole game, you might have your own moment, is that Doinby just didn't recall.
Yeah,
like,
I was about to say.
That's actually like the biggest thing about this entire game.
Yeah.
Like, think about QG and their recipe for success. We already said it when we highlighted the 2v2, is that he leaves lane. He goes and joins Clid. They go as this warband and they go towards bottom lane and they'll dive it. And it worked once, but he spent over 5 minutes almost in mid lane with absolutely no mana whilst EasyHoon pushed him under, and EasyHoon's able to rotate so they couldn't make a play, and they were forced to try and make it mid, and it doesn't work like that.
That seems to be the theme of the night, honestly. We've seen a lot of Arise comes through, and you need to bring your jungler. If you can't get the shove in as well, if the enemy mid laner is constantly going to be looking to keep you in lane, and that's just going to be their job. They want to be able to eke out a larger CS advantage through and through, and it's going to be so easy if you do not force your jungler to come in and at least get that shove forward.
The antithesis to that, however, is something that what Bengi did this game with that Ivern, where he just ran around, dropped wards, kept tabs on the enemy team, but it didn't seem like he was buddy-buddy with EasyHoon that we were kind of hoping we would see.
Yeah, it was, again, I think it came back to the draft, right? They were playing an Ivern composition, so they wanted to hit mid-game, and the early game's not as important, especially for Vici, even in comparison to QG. So the mid-game is like a bigger deal for Vici, where early game was where QG were trying to make plays and push the tempo, and it didn't feel like QG got the tempo to a level that they were actually comfortable with. That's where Vici started to run away with it with their draft.
But in general, though, it feels like we saw Xiaogu continuously attempt to make plays over the course of the game, despite the fact that Vici had control of the tempo.
Yeah, they made a lot of attempts, and I think your point early on in the game itself was fairly clear. And when they went towards that bottom lane dive, it could have been well if Braum had actually saved up on his ulti, and so they would have had a way out, but there was no exit strategy there. And from that point forward, they got another dragon, they got a way to back away, so there was a lot of options in which, I mean, if you're giving a dragon towards this composition, that's the major error here, is simply because they're stacking it constantly. That's their major focus, is towards the dragon, towards the Baron. It was great on Qiao to recognize that 20-minute Baron was coming through, or else that would have been game over that much earlier.
Yeah.
But overall, sure, recognizing it is the first step, but you can't let them get to it first.
And QG were going for kills. That's the biggest difference as well. If Vici were looking at a tower saying, we will get this structure down with our siege composition, and QG's response is, we'll just kill you before you can do it.
Yeah.
And because they weren't killing them, the turrets were falling, and that's where that gold lead really came from.
Yeah, looks like the MVP this game is going over to EasyHoon. 6-1-4, 91% kill participation, 31% of his team's damage, and 150% of something.
I was trying to think about that one as well. I couldn't actually... I think it's gold to damage efficiency is something that China really does like putting in their graphics. So we'll go with that. Okay. I'm happy to be proven wrong. If you know the answer, tweet at SpawnLol.
There we go.
And he will give you the answer.
I'm sure he'll find an answer for that one.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's give us a big recap. Again, Week of the Reapers. This was the big test. Can they play against Vici? Game 1 doesn't look great.
Game 2, I wouldn't... Get that Ivern out of here. I'm not, I just get it out of my face. That was just way too disgusting. Like, the composition in and of itself, there are ways you can deal with it, but especially with Vici, they are very much so a neutral objective focused team, or at least that's what they're looking towards being. And if you get the Ivern out of the way, then the Cassio and the Caitlyn will definitely not be as big of a factor.
I think to take it one step further as well, I agree with get rid of the Ivern, and the biggest preface to this for me is that QG like addicted with Baron just as much as Vici are, and Vici had the better comp for it.
Yeah, they certainly did. We'll see if it works out for them in game number 2. We're going to be right back. Don't go anywhere.